The big facilities that deal with everything in the same place and lots of them is not an economic way of going about it. The whole sales, people are used to shopping online now. They're used to buying online, even cars. And so we need to take advantage of that digital technology and get away with and do away with some of the very costly big facilities. And for example, service does not need to be in the same place as sales, which it traditionally has been. So I think you'll be able to take service out to a big center for a big city, somewhere out of the center, and do everything there in a much lower cost environment. So I think physically the dealers are going to change their facilities. They also have to change their mind a little bit in terms of how do you connect with people. That's where a lot of this is going to be won. As Rob mentioned earlier on, Apple will create a kind of atmosphere, create a momentum when they're introducing their new product, not by going out with traditional advertising, but by getting everybody to talk about it. But OEMs are pretty slow to change what they do. And instead of the big adverts, you want to get people talking about what does the car look like, what does it do, what can you do in the car. You can be totally connected all the time, you can be safe, etc., etc. And dealers have to play a part in that too. They have to use the data that's available to connect with the customer much better than they have done in the past.
I mean, we have a number of solutions in this field of play, which we call under the umbrella of People at Retail. Where we have tools to assess competencies, to look at how people specifically have defined a job role and interpreted that job role, and how we can help them be trained to work in that field of play. So training will play a very important role moving forward. So understanding where you want to take the organization, then identifying the people that you need to do that change. So it's a normal change process, and I think it's very much a management issue. So a dealer principal will play a major role in that. And that's where we as an outside company can help, with a mirror, looking in and then helping in making that transformation. With all the knowledge that we have about retail processes, visiting thousands and thousands of dealers, we see every day where the problems lie. So we can work and help dealers make that transfer in their organization.
It's not a question of will we get electric vehicles, will they become important? It's for sure we will, and the question is how long will we have to wait, how fast will they get introduced? You do have the problem today of a relatively high cost, but there's an enormous amount of work and money going into reducing the costs of these things, and frankly the environment doesn't give us a choice. We have to improve from an emissions point of view. And so the cost of these cars will come down. Legislation will push people more. There'll be incentives to buy. There already are, but they'll grow. And so I think it's a big opportunity for the industry. Interesting point though, when at least in my old company, and I know in another couple, when they started to introduce the first electric vehicles, they thought, well, we can't trust all our dealers to be able to know how to handle this new technology. So they pick sort of 10 or 15% of their dealers and they train them up to be electric vehicle experts and allow them to mend and to do the repair on the car. In the future, that's not going to be an option. You're going to have 100% of your dealers capable of handling electric vehicles, because there are going to be many of them and they're going to be all over the place. So that is a big challenge. How do you train that number of dealers to handle what is a completely new technology for many of them?
OEMs are starting to go much more into downstream business. So how are you going to train the dealers to manage that in a proper way and maintaining through that possibility the relationship with the client? So there's also a lot of commercial training attached to electrical vehicles, which I think should not be underestimated. I think that's an area also where there will be a lot of focus. Of course, you have the technical challenge and the infrastructure challenge and the challenge of regulations that need to be out in the marketplace before cars can drive autonomous. So I think it's a legal need for getting the platforms and infrastructure ready to be handling this. And then, of course, next to the technology. There's how do you train again the dealers, the retailers, to help customers manage this in a proper way.
Well, sometimes people talk about electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles almost in the same breath. But I have quite a strong view on this, and that is electric vehicles are coming fast, cost is coming down, but you're a long, long way before you have many, or the standard car being an autonomous car. It's not the technology that's really going to hold it up, it's the infrastructure. There is a huge investment to be made in the physical infrastructure of roads and so on in order to be able to have these autonomous cars do what they can do. Driverless cars, the investment is massive. And what about the existing park? You know, you've got hundreds of millions of vehicles out there that are anything but autonomous. And so how do you turn them, how do they react to the vehicles? It'll happen, but in my view, you're talking about well beyond 2050 before you have truly autonomous cars or a truly autonomous park. On the other hand, I think there will be development in this, and I would say probably in kind of four areas. First of all, diagnostics, vehicle diagnostics through the connectivity that is built in. You will probably see a lot more dedicated lanes for autonomous vehicles, where there only can be autonomous vehicles on it, which can reduce congestion, improve safety, and so on. And the investment for that is nothing like is changing the whole infrastructure. Also, of course, with the autonomous vehicle comes all this connectivity. So connectivity to who's in the car will be another area of focus. Personally, I think that people are getting a little bit too excited about autonomous cars, not because of the concept, but just because of the timing. I think it's going to take a long, long time. And who's going to pay for that infrastructure? It's going to be the governments. And governments have got lots of priorities at the moment. You look at in Europe, who's got the money to spend to change all the infrastructure, and the car companies can't do it. So I see it as a very long-term thing, but with some developments, specific developments along the way.